The U.S. prepares for war with Canada as both countries are evacuating tens of thousands of citizens. I'll show you where and how and why in this video. This comes, of course, if you watched my previous video after the U.S. House of Representatives and the Republicans passed the enhanced draft that would potentially include women to be drafted in the United States that was passed in the House. I'll link you to that video here later in this video. You'll get the details. I'll show you that. That's under consideration, was passed in the House, enhanced military draft. The U.S. is preparing for potentially something much larger. Take a look here. So the U.S. is readying and evacuating Americans from Lebanon if the fighting between Israel and Hezbollah intensifies. U.S. officials are increasingly concerned Israel is going to carry out airstrikes and a possible ground offensive in Lebanon in the coming weeks. This also comes here as Canada military is planning for evacuation of 20,000 from Lebanon, says their top commander. General Wayne Eyre says their plan echoes an effort back from 2006, almost 20 years ago, when war broke out between Israel and Hezbollah. So is history repeating itself yet again? So the Pentagon is moving U.S. military assets closer to Israel and Lebanon to be ready to evacuate Americans as fighting between Israel and Hezbollah intensifies. So note the key words here. The U.S. is using this as maybe a disguise or a excuse to move military assets closer to Israel and Lebanon. So those are the key words that I took here, and you can let me know your thoughts here in the comments. They're moving more military assets closer to Israel and Lebanon, and they're saying this is to evacuate Americans. But nonetheless, they're moving more military assets, which includes military personnel, people, boots on the ground, closer to Israel and Hezbollah as the fighting intensifies. According to 3 U.S. defense officials and a former U.S. official familiar with the plans. The USS Wasp, an amphibious assault ship, and Marines from the 24th Expeditionary Unit, which is a special operations capable unit, moved into the Mediterranean to join the dock-landed ship, the USS Oak Hill, and another ship in their amphibious-ready group, according to the Marine Corps. The Wasp will operate in the Eastern Mediterranean to be ready for a military-assisted departure and other missions, officials said. The Wasp and the Marine Expeditionary Unit are also intended to project military power and be ready as a deterrent to regional escalations, according to a U.S. official familiar with the plans. The move comes as tensions continue to mount and cross-border fire increases between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon. U.S. officials are increasingly concerned that Israel is going to carry out airstrikes and a possible ground offensive in Lebanon in the coming weeks. So the U.S. is evacuating Americans, but at the same time, putting U.S. military boots on the ground closer to the area and personnel closer to the area and military units and amphibious vehicles and all sorts of stuff in the area. The New York Times reports the U.S. presses to avert a wider war between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon. A recent flurry of diplomacy aims to head off a conflict that could pit the United States directly against Iran, which is what we're getting closer and closer to. Why an Israel Hezbollah war would be far more dangerous today than the last time around. Could this be stretching into a much larger ordeal that the United States could be thrown into? And is this a larger incorporation of what many people believe is World War III, with more and more countries getting involved in? Remember, Russia, Ukraine, and dozens of countries already involved there, including the United States. And now the Middle East and many countries involved there with, Iran, Israel, Hezbollah, and the United States involved there, and all the countries that are supporting their different sides over there. Take a look here. Former Israeli War Cabinet member Benny Gantz says, "We can plunge Lebanon completely into the dark and take apart Hezbollah's power in days." Or at least so they say. It was the latest threat from a prominent Israeli public figure against Lebanon and Hezbollah. It won't be difficult for Israel to plunge Lebanon into darkness, the country's power grid, already crippled by decades of mismanagement, and the country's economic collapse, barely functions as it is. Taking apart Hezbollah's military power in days, however, is a far taller task. Since 2006, war with the Lebanese military group, Israel has been planning for a rematch. Hezbollah, too, has long been preparing for war. According to Israel estimates, they have at least 150,000 missiles and rockets. Israel estimates the group has already fired 5,000, which means Hezbollah's leader said in a speech last week that much of its arsenal remains intact. And Hezbollah may have up to 100,000 troops at their disposal, which, really this could lead to a much larger war than Israel and maybe the United States wants to bite off. You can let me know your thoughts here in the comments. And it kind of makes you wonder here, was this all brought about by Vladimir Putin and Russia to take the eye off of what was happening there in Ukraine so Russia could go in there and finally reach their ultimate goal there? And um, yeah, it does make you kind of wonder here if either of these wars will end anytime soon, or will they continue to spread? And you also kind of got to wonder here, will China jump into the mix with taking over Taiwan? And is this actually World War III? And where does the United States fit into all of this? Let me know your thoughts here in the comments. I'll keep you up to date. Thanks for liking this video. It helps out our YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe down below so you don't miss out on new videos. Click the bell icon after subscribing. Click here to see a recap of the debate. And the Supreme Court just legalized bribery. Yeah, that's right. Or click here to see how the draft, or click here to see how the House of Representatives just passed a new revised draft, military draft. Thanks, and I'll see you in one of those videos next.